Another gear switch.
Sure.
Let's go to music, sir. Since
Sure.
again, multi-hyphenate in the building.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show our age a little bit more.
It's all good. It's all good.
22 years ago,
Yes.
you had a collaboration with a rapper named Chingy.
Yeah.
One Call.
Yeah. One call away.
Fantastic song. You
Thank
sang
you.
the hook on that, and all the way down here, bumping that the whole way. And I was just like, I hadn't heard this in a while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, wow, this still goes hard.
Man, appreciate it.
I love the song. I love the video. If you look at the video, it's truly a time capsule into that time period.
time,
the
yeah.
fun was at the 2000s.
Yeah,
in
early
terms of that.
2000s.
Early 2000s. That was just a fun time in music.
It was. It was.
Tell me about how that collaboration came together. And now, 22 years later, if and when you hear that song, how do you feel?
Oh man, well, first of all, thank you for complimenting that song, because it was a blessing to be a part of that. It's really a blessing that kind of just dropped out of the sky, literally, and it also stems from old relationships that I had here in Atlanta when I first moved here. So when I first moved to Atlanta from Los Angeles, after I got through doing this show called Smart Guy, I bought my home here, and I was really good friends with Poon Daddy and Chris Lover at then Hot 97.
Shout out to old Atlanta.
Shout out to old Atlanta. Shout out to Shaka Zulu. You know, those guys, when I first came to Atlanta, were like some of the first people, you know, to embrace me, alongside with Rico Wade, Organized Noise, rest in peace,
Rest
Rico.
in peace, Rico.
You know, those were some of the first people to really, really embrace me and, you know, help to kind of show me what Atlanta was all about. You know, not only musically and what was going on in entertainment here, but culturally. And just, you know, what we were doing as Black people. They were the main ones to really help me with that or introduce me to that. And so, you know, fast forward, well, that was, when I first came down here, that was what, 98, right? One Call Away came about, I think, like 2000, maybe 2001. But what ended up happening was I was in Los Angeles. I was shooting a film with the Coen brothers called The Lady Killers that starred Tom Hanks. And Marlon Wayans.
I remember that movie.
And I went out one evening to an event. It was like an industry event. And Poon was in there. Shout out to Poon Daddy.
Poon Daddy.
Poon was at this event. And, you know, we reconnected. And he was like, man, what's up, man? It's good to see you out here. You know, I heard you working with the Coen brothers. I was like, yeah. And he said, well, man, you still doing the music? I was like, well, you know, music is a part of my life, man. And, you know, it's what my family does. I was like, music is always going to be in me. I was like, wow, what's up? Why are you asking that question? He was like, well, man, you heard this kid that has this song out called Right There. And at that time, Right There was playing like every 5 minutes in Los Angeles on Power 106 and like 92.3. He was just like everywhere. It's so much to the point where I thought Chingy originally was from Los Angeles.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, the kid from LA that got the Right There. He was like, no, he's not from LA. He's from St. Louis. And, you know, he's a Disturbing the Peace artist. Excuse me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I'm glad you guys are doing your thing. He said, well, man, we got a follow-up single that we're looking to put out that we're hoping will allow, you know, him to kind of cross over. You know, it's more of a record that's appealing to the ladies. And we're looking for a guest vocalist, you know, to lay down vocals for the hook. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, okay. And at that time, you know, you had young male vocalists out, like Marcus Houston, Omarion. There was another artist that was signed to Capitol at that time named Houston. So I think there were maybe like 4 or 5 different young male artists at the time that they had demoed that record on.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just telling me, he said, man, you know, everybody's done a cool job, but it's just still missing. So we're looking for like a certain kind of magic or a certain kind of voice over the record. And he said, well, man, would you like to, you know, give it a try? Like, and, you know, me at that time, I was really focused on just film and TV. I really wasn't tripping about doing a record, but I just thought it was a unique opportunity. And, you know, Poon and Chris and Shaka and all the guys at Disturbing the Peace, those are my guys. I was like, man, why not? You know, I'll give it a shot. You know, I love going into the studio and creating, and it gave me an opportunity to do that while I was in Los Angeles filming a movie. So it was like, sure. So a couple days later, Poon had booked a session at Enterprise Studios in Burbank. At that particular day, I happened to be filming the Lady Killers with Joel and Ethan Cohen, and I was doing my scene with Marlon, and Poon had called me like, man, the session's at 1 p.m. I was like, well, dude, I'm on set. Like, I can't move away from set right now. Like, this is something I'm focused on. He's like, well, man, this is the only time we get a chance to do it. Man, do you think like on your lunch break, he was like, we could move the session down a little bit, but do you think on your lunch break you may be able to kind of sneak away? Luckily for me, where we were shooting is in Glendale, California, which is like the neighboring town next to Burbank. So I went to Joel and Ethan and I was like, hey, I know this probably comes across as really unprofessional, but I have a studio session that's booked that, Disturbing the Peace booked for me to do this hook. It's right down the street. Instead of taking my lunch, can I just go down the street real quick and record this and come back to work? Man, Joel and Ethan was so cool. They're like, oh, you're going to record something real quick? Man, go do it. If you can be back here by like 1:30 where we can get these last 2 shots, like, you're good. So, took a cab. No, I had a production van drive me to the studio. Went into the booth, sang the hook down maybe about 5 or 6 times. Left. Poon had called me while I was still on set. He was like, man, the references that you laid down for the vocals, they sound great. We're going to comp the vocals. And, once we get the finished vocal reference, like, I'm going to send it to you for your approval. Let me know what you think. So, sure enough, engineer, they cut the vocals, comp the vocals. And he sent it to me. And I thought it sounded good. But yet and still, I knew that there were, other male young vocalists that were on there that, had records out that were relevant and, like top charting records. So I really didn't think that I had a legitimate chance of getting on the record. But come to find out, I think they played all the different versions of the records to like different focus groups. This is when labels were like
actually doing A&R.
Yeah, pretty much. So they ran the record, through like 3 different focus groups, and my version was the one that really, really stood out with the listening audience within those focus groups. And so they decided to run with it. And it turned out to be a blessing. The blessing was for me was that it allowed me to again kind of show my skills vocally, especially within the realm of R&B, because I was a signed artist to Motown previous to that. That's where I know like Andre Harrell and Clarence Avon and Steve McKeever and Gerald Busby. Those were all, my guys when I was a signed artist there. But I never really got the opportunity to kind of like really display that talent during my tenure there at Motown. It was a short ride that I had there, and to be honest with you, after my experience with Motown, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Where I really wasn't that anxious to like work with major labels again like that. I was more interested, if I was gonna do music, to be more of an independent artist. But this gave me an opportunity to kind of jump back into the major label pool and utilize their resources, and it allowed me to reconnect with my audience, and that's what it turned out to be. So one call away was a blessing, and I thank Poon for that, because he was really the one that pulled the strings to make that happen. So, again, Poon, thank you so much, man. I always make sure that, I mention you to where people really know, how that happened. Shout out again to Shaka, Chris, everybody at Disturbing the Peace, Jeff. Shout out to Chingy for even, being open to allowing me to guest feature on his record. And yeah, it was a good time.